recent transit woes, they've renewed the NDP calls for an inquiry into Metrolinx. So for more on this, we're joined live by MPP Doly Begum. She represents Scarborough Southwest and is the Shadow Minister for Public Transit. Okay, let's just get your response to today's issues.
Thanks so much for having me. I've said before that I expect nothing from Metrolinx, just seeing the years of delays and then obviously the issues that they continue to hide or are not very transparent about. So I was just listening to some of the commuters. I can hear their frustration, and I think the expectation, one of the gentlemen was just saying that after all these years, you expect better, and yet here we are.
Okay,
what we're facing right now. Yeah.
I apologize. Continue.
I think that's why we've been calling for a public inquiry into Metrolinx and all its construction, because it's public dollars and people deserve answers.
Well, along with that, you did mention transparency. What do you expect to come out of this inquiry?
Well, one of the things that we've been asking is to find out what has caused the delay, as well as what's making the double or the triple of the cost for these constructions. For example, Eglinton LRT has now tripled in its cost, and over 15 years for the Eglinton LRT, which is one of the things that I've been calling on the government to be more accountable for, and make sure that Metrolinx has some answers. Obviously, what's happening with the Finch LRT, it does have issues, and it means that now TTC is having to deal with what Metrolinx has handed over. And in a couple of weeks or couple of months, maybe, we'll find out the same thing with Eglinton LRT that's going to be handed over to the TTC, which it's not willing to take that responsibility unless Metrolinx comes out and says, you know what, here are the issues and here's how we're going to fix it. But they're not being transparent. They're not being open. And this government, the Ford government, has given total impunity when it comes to Metrolinx and its operations. The large number of vice presidents, the executives who make so much money, they're making a fortune while we're not getting the result. And if we have a public agency like that, then we're in trouble. And It's been happening for more than a decade now.
Well, let's talk about the steps in order to get this inquiry to happen.
Well, one of the things that the government can do right now is, and I asked for this morning, which was to call Metrolinx for public hearing within our government agencies. And that's a very simple step. They could have just called Metrolinx to come in and answer some of our questions, which will give us, scheduled dates, exact costing, any specific issues, the serious issues we're seeing with Finch right now, Finch LRT, or with Eglinton LRT, the Scarborough subway extension. All of those questions could be asked if they show up at government agencies. And then the other bigger portion of this ask is of the government to actually launch a public inquiry into Metrolinx, and not just one project, but overall, because Metrolinx has had total impunity over a decade, and they need to be accountable. They need to be transparent to the people of this province, and we need to have those answers. People deserve answers, and Metrolinx, it's high time that the government asks for that.
Do you think this inquiry will actually happen?
I'm not really sure why the government is sort of burying its head under the sand when it comes to Metrolinx, because it's not really helping their cause either. I'm really disappointed with the Ministry of Transportation, with the minister, as well as the premier, who I hope they would want to see good transit system, good transportation built across the province, efficient transportation across the province. People have been struggling on the Eglinton line, and businesses have closed down. So many families have struggled. People want good transit. And so it's really important that we do that. But we have an agency that is completely, completely negligent, disrespectful to the public, to the government. So it would actually serve the government to call for this inquiry, to launch this inquiry, and get some answers for themselves as well, and for the people of this province.
Well, if this does not happen, what recourse do you have?
Well, I think one of the things that we've seen is the doubling and the tripling of the cost. It will just continue, unfortunately. So we don't really have an alternative. If we, this is something that we must get it done, because if the government is silent, and not only silent, they're actually defending Metrolinx for this lack of transparency, for this lack of accountability, and just complete disregard for the public dollar, public, just the people of this province. What we need across this province right now is good transit, and the Metrolinx is not doing that. So if we have this kind of, if it just continues, then I think the government's not doing its job either, and people will remember that. And I really hope that the government understands its responsibility to do that. We were just in the legislature just a few minutes ago debating the same thing, because the government has now adjourned for the Christmas break, for the holidays, for a long period of time, I believe 102 days. And that means we don't get the opportunity to stand up for the people of our ridings, this province, to ask these questions, to ask for the needs of the people of this province.
Okay, MPP Doly Begum, thank you.